So as Switch units all over the world start to slowly come back into stock, you might be thinking about picking one up. Well, clearly you are because you're watching this video. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Switch and the Switch Lite and see which one is best for you. So in my opinion, there's arguments to be made for both versions of the Switch. The Lite has its pros, the Lite has its cons. The original Switch also has its pros and its cons. But in this video today, I wanna get you guys as much information as I possibly can. Some of that's gonna be coming directly from Nintendo's website, and some will be just, my insight as someone who's used both for a pretty extensive period at this point. I definitely wanna touch on a few things that I know a lot of people are worried about, including drift, motion controls, what games can and cannot be played on the Switch Lite. So we're gonna get into all that, but first, let's go ahead and get some of the basic stuff out of the way, and let's look at what actually comes in the box with each system. Starting out with the Switch Lite, fairly simple here. You're getting the system and a charger. That's it. You're gonna get, obviously the paperwork and stuff that comes with it, with warranties and things like that. But essentially, that's all you're getting in the box. It's just the system, just the charger. Simple enough. Now for the original Switch, inside the box, you're not only getting the system itself, but you're getting a set of Joy-Cons, a Joy-Con grip so you can use the Joy-Cons as a controller, the dock, an HDMI cable, and a power cable. So quite a bit more in the box when you get the original Switch, but when you think about the price difference, it makes sense. The pricing is comparable to something like the PS4 to the PS4 Pro. Not quite as much, but the same general idea and price scaling. So the Switch Lite is priced at $199, and the original Switch is priced at $299. Now, even though one costs more than the other, and I did just compare those to a PS4 Pro and a PS4, both these systems in handheld mode have the same power. One does not look better than the other. However, in docked mode, the original Switch does have the ability to output in 1080p, whereas on the Lite and in handheld mode on the original, you are gonna be at 720p. And keep in mind, that is max resolution. That is not all the time. Some games run lower, some games run at 720 or 1080, but it really depends on the game. That's not what this video is about though, so let's go ahead and get back on track with what we're talking about. But like I was saying, technically, I guess you could say the original Switch has more power, but when it comes to both of them in handheld mode, they are the same. So as far as resolution and stuff like that goes, the dock is what's gonna make the difference in the two systems. But before we go into the dock, I wanna go ahead and put the two systems side by side and compare them. Now the first thing you're gonna notice when they're side by side here is that the original is bigger than the Lite. Shocker, I know. So the Switch Lite is about 8 inches from side to side and just a hair over 3.5 inches tall. Now, according to the Nintendo website, with the Switch Lite, you're gonna get anywhere from 3 to 7 hours of battery. And using the universal benchmark system of Breath of the Wild in handheld mode, Nintendo is claiming that you will get 4 hours of battery life while playing that game, which in my experience is pretty close to right. Now, when you take a look at the original Switch, it's gonna be about 9.5 inches from side to side, and you're looking at about 4 inches tall. And that is gonna be with the Joy-Cons attached to the sides. Another quick thing I definitely need to let you guys know about is the screen sizes here. With the Switch Lite, you're looking at a 5.5 inch screen, and with the original Switch, you're gonna get a 6.2 inch screen. And I wanna talk about that for a second. So if you're thinking about getting the Lite, but you're worried that maybe the screen size isn't gonna be big enough for you, in my experience, I don't really notice the difference in screen size that much at all. Unless a game has super small text and you're really having trouble reading on the Lite, and there's actually workarounds for that too that I put in a video, which I will link right here. But unless that's the case, you're really not gonna be noticing the difference in screen size all that much at all. So if you wanna save the extra $100 and that's what you're worried about, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd go ahead and get the Switch Lite. It's not gonna be a problem. So in my opinion, this is where the biggest difference is, and probably the one that means the most. The battery life of the original Switch, you're looking at 4.5 to 9 hours of battery. And if we go back to our Breath of the Wild benchmark, you're looking at 5.5 hours. And again, in my experience, that's pretty close. Also, one other thing you definitely wanna keep in mind when you are picking up an original Switch. There are two versions of the original Switch. There's the one that came out at launch, And then there's the updated V2 version. The original version is gonna be in a white box and it will not have that same battery life. The old version, you're looking at 2.5 to 6 hours of battery life. So when you're out there looking for an original Switch to buy new, make sure you find one in a red box. That's the one you wanna go for. At this point, don't buy the one in the white box unless you can get it for a very good price. And if you are buying one used, I'm gonna go ahead and put right here on the screen now what serial number you are looking for. If you look at the end, it's got a -1 on it. That's gonna be the V2. So if it doesn't have that -1, you're not gonna be getting that battery life, and again, make sure you're getting a good discount on one of those. So one of the obvious differences we have not talked about yet is the original Switch has detachable Joy-Cons, while the Switch Lite has none. It's just one solid piece. Now I have got this question I'm about to answer in a lot of the comment sections of my other videos, so I'm gonna try to make this as clear as possible for everyone in case you have the same question as well. While the Switch Lite does not come with detachable Joy-Cons, you can connect Joy-Cons to the Switch Lite, and you can also connect Pro controllers and just about any other wireless controller that will connect to a regular Switch. You can also connect that to a Switch Lite. Now the only issue you're gonna run into in that situation is the Switch Lite does not have a kickstand like the original Switch. I mean, the original Switch doesn't have a great kickstand either, but it's got something on it. I actually have a whole list of awesome options you can use as a kickstand for your Switch Lite. So if that's something you wanna do, you know, play tabletop mode with your Switch Lite, check that video out, there's a lot of information there on that. So something else you're gonna be losing in the Lite that the original does have is HD rumble. And that for some is a big thing. If you've seen some of my other videos on the subject, for me, not so much, but it is something you wanna keep in mind. If rumble was a big deal to you, you definitely probably just wanna go ahead and get the original Switch just so you're gonna have that. But another thing that you're also gonna be losing is the IR sensor in the original Switch if you get a Switch Lite, which in my opinion is not a big deal at all because there's only a few games that use it. So I really wouldn't worry about that too much unless you're playing something like 1-2 Switch, and I don't even know if there's any other games that use it, but I really wouldn't worry about it that much. That's not a big deal at all. Okay, so a few other things I wanna bring up really fast here, one of them being motion control and the other one being drift. We're gonna start with the motion control stuff first. Now, as I said, you do not get the IR sensor motion tracker in the Switch Lite, but you do still have the gyro aiming on the Switch Lite. So if you're playing Breath of the Wild and you're trying to aim your bow, you can definitely still do that on a Switch Lite. Or if you're playing Mario Kart and you're using tilt controls, that also works on a Switch Lite. That has cleared up a lot as the system released, and they did change some of the wording on their website to make it a little bit more clear, but I was confused at first, and I thought that the Switch Lite was not gonna have any type of motion control at all. But it does, so if that's something that you are concerned about, don't worry, you can still use the gyro aiming and tilt controls all perfectly fine. The next thing I wanna talk about here is kind of a touchy topic, and for good reason, but it's drift. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos on drift, you know that I think this is a little bit overblown, but a lot of that is because of how Nintendo handled the entire situation. I've got another full video on that, again, I'll link it somewhere so you can check it out if you haven't seen it. Basically, the point of the video is they handled it terribly. That's why it's such a big controversy. You hear a lot of people talking about the drift in the Joy-Cons and the Switch Lite because it was handled terribly. But I really do want you to remember something. Xbox controllers, PlayStation controllers, they get drift too. Now, right now, Nintendo is having a little bit of an issue with it, but a lot of the stuff you see out there right now, you have to remember, is the vocal minority. You are seeing a lot of that stuff out there online right now because the people who aren't having that problem obviously aren't talking about it online because they don't have that problem. If you look at the comment section of the video that I did on it, I would say probably 90% of the comments are people telling me that they do have drift in their Switch Lite stick or in their Joy-Con, which makes sense because the people who are having those issues are the ones looking things up on how to fix it. So all I really wanna say about that is just don't take everything you see online 100% literally, because yeah, those people are having problems and it is way more of an issue than it should be, but I don't think it's enough that it should stop you from buying a Switch Lite or a Switch in any way at all, especially if you live in the United States, because Nintendo's replacing any drifting Joy-Con or Switch Lite for free. Now, they should have changed the sticks out in the Switch Lite. I agree, I know, let's not get into that, but I think you shouldn't let something like that stop you from having such a great system and enjoying it. So that's all I wanna touch on with that. But just keep in mind, like I said, it is a problem, but I don't think that it should stop you from buying a Switch or a Switch Lite. But guys, that's gonna do it for this one. If you guys have any questions at all about the Switch or the Switch Lite, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like, make sure you are subscribed, and we will see you in the next one.